Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are looking at literally one of the absolute wildest psychological endurance tests ever caught on camera. Picture this. A woman named Allison is challenged to survive 30 days physically chained, yes, handcuffed, to complete strangers. It's an incredible case study in human behavior, packed with chaos, extreme environments, and just an insane amount of psychological pressure. Now, before we really get into the mechanics of how this works, I want you to put yourself in Allison's shoes for a second. Would you trust a complete stranger with $250,000? I mean, it's one thing to say sure in theory, right? But it's an entirely different beast when you're physically tethered to someone you've never even met, intensely overanalyzing their every micro-expression. Your entire financial fate rests in the hands of someone whose last name you probably don't even know.
And we really need to emphasize the stakes here. $250,000. That is for sure life-changing money. As you'll see throughout this explainer, just the mere presence of this massive financial prize completely alters human behavior. It breeds paranoia, it forces people to make wild promises, and it basically turns every single interaction into a high-stakes game of mental chess.
To really grasp the underlying psychological trap Allison is facing, we kind of have to look at the classic game theory concept of split versus steal. Basically, if the person Allison ultimately chooses decides to play fair, they split the money and both walk away with $125,000. Win-win, right? But if her chosen partner decides to steal, they take the full $250,000 and Allison, after enduring 30 days of absolute misery, walks away with absolutely nothing. Zero.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the ultimate trust test, where judging someone based purely on their looks kicks off this brilliantly diabolical premise.
So Allison isn't just randomly assigned these partners, she actually has to choose who to physically attach herself to based on nothing but their appearance. From there, the rules are deceptively simple. Step 1, she's handcuffed to a stranger. No personal space, no privacy whatsoever. Step 2, to stop her from getting too comfortable with anyone, she has to change partners every 5 days, meaning she resets that whole trust-building process from scratch over and over. And step 3, the ultimate kicker. At the very end of the experiment, she picks just one partner, and that specific person gets the opportunity to steal the entire prize pool.
Moving on to Section 2, escalating environmental twists. Because, they didn't just want to test her mind, they added some extreme physical stress to the game too.
Just look at how this timeline illustrates the sheer absurdity of the physical constraints she had to endure. Day 1 kicks off in this cramped, tiny house with a biker named Bryce. But then, by day 10, she's suddenly merged into a completely different video experiment, basically living inside a grocery store with a construction worker named Juan. Day 15? Oh, they literally drop an airplane onto her tiny house, forcing her and a cowboy named Jason to live inside the slanted wreckage. And by day 20, she's moved into a makeshift gym with a college athlete named Bree. This constant, unpredictable environmental instability meant Allison could literally never let her guard down.
Allison actually captured this absurdity perfectly when she just looked at her partner and asked, "You ever lived in a plane that crashed on a house before?" The answer, obviously, is no. These physical constraints were completely by design, meant to test the contestants' patience and sanity to their absolute limits. I mean, when you're sleeping on a steeply tilted floor inside a plane fuselage, handcuffed to a total stranger, well, that thin veneer of politeness fades very quickly. You really get to see who people truly are when they are deeply physically uncomfortable.
Which brings us to Section 3, profiling the strangers, and how Allison essentially had to act as a human lie detector.
Right in the middle of all this environmental chaos, Allison's main job was gathering vital data, basically evaluating the trust flags across some very distinct personalities. You have Bryce, the biker, who came off a bit suspicious. Skylar, the cheerleader, who ended up being highly secretive. Juan, the blue-collar worker, who honestly presented as incredibly trustworthy. Jason, the cowboy, who hesitated when it counted most. And Bree, the athlete, who was intensely persuasive. Allison had to weigh all these radically different personalities against each other.
For instance, take Skylar, the cheerleader. During what seemed like a totally innocent, fun moment of just hanging out and bonding, Skylar accidentally slips up and yells out, "Ooh, I told my secret." She was referring to the fact that she actually already knew the massive size of the prize pool despite playing dumb earlier. This one single accidental slip-up during a moment of laughter immediately raised some major red flags for Allison. It proved, without a doubt, that Skylar was capable of maintaining a facade.
Now, let's contrast that suspicious behavior with Juan. He's a father of 6, a blue-collar construction worker who's up at 5 a.m. every single day. He really bonds with Allison over these deeply personal family values, opening up about wanting the money to help his dad, who was recently diagnosed with dementia. He looks Allison right in the eye and claims he has never stolen a thing in his life. Talk about overwhelming green flags, right? It really felt like he wasn't playing a game. He was just being genuinely himself.
But then you have Bree, the athlete, and she takes a totally different approach. Bree goes to absolute extreme lengths to guarantee she wouldn't betray Allison. At one point, Bree literally points to her own skin and declares, "I literally have a tattoo that says promise." She actually uses this permanent mark on her body as a solemn vow that she won't steal the cash. This super aggressive, highly persuasive tactic just adds immense pressure to Allison's final choice. I mean, who do you trust? The naturally kind father or the fiercely competitive athlete who is basically swearing a blood oath?
So here we go, Section 4, the final decision. Will they split or steal? In a classic twist of a psychological warfare, that 30-day timeline is abruptly cut short. Allison gets blindfolded, brought before all her former partners, and is told she has to eliminate them one by one. But, of course, there's a massive catch. The first stranger she eliminates, as in the one she trusts the least to handle the grand prize, walks away with a $10,000 parting gift.
So the crucial point here is that Allison's ranking directly controls their payout. The second person she eliminates, they walk away with $20,000.
The third person sent home gets a cool $30,000.
And the final eliminated stranger, basically the runner-up, gets $40,000. This turns the exact order of Allison's eliminations into a super high-stakes puzzle. She has to perfectly rank her intuition, knowing full well that her choices are directly injecting tens of thousands of dollars into these strangers' lives. And all of this is while trying to protect herself from the one person at the very end who actually holds the button for that $250,000 steal.
So who does she trust the least? Well, Allison ends up eliminating Jason the cowboy first, which secures him the 10 grand. Why? Because over the course of their 5 days chained together in that crashed airplane, Jason was literally the only person who actively hesitated when Allison asked him, point blank, to swear he wouldn't steal. He just couldn't give her a straight answer. And man, her gut picked up on that hesitation immediately.
And guys, this is where this explainer gets truly incredible. Right after she eliminates him, Jason's secret choice is revealed to the entire group. He confesses, yeah, when I said, unless things change, turns out he actually chose to steal the money. If Allison had trusted Jason and kept him until the end, he would have taken the entire $250,000, leaving her with absolutely nothing. Her gut instinct, which she honed just by living physically tethered to the guy, was completely 100% spot on.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In a world completely full of unpredictability, how well can you really read a complete stranger? Allison was put through environmental torture and psychological manipulation, and yet she still successfully navigated all those micro-expressions, the slips of the tongue, and the awkward hesitations to protect herself. It really challenges you to think about how you evaluate trust in your own life. When the stakes are at their absolute highest, could you spot the person planning to steal from you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.